What is going on, everybody? Jesse here, back in the garden, and this time I wanted to talk about just getting out and gardening. A lot of people are new to gardening and they don't really know where to start, so I figured I'd start with where I started, and that's what's behind me. I started gardening as a raised bed gardener, and I started with 8 of the boxes that are actually behind me now. And I kept building and building and building, and now I have 28 of them. Now, I did it when wood was cheap. Each one of these boxes cost me no more than $11 at the highest, and it was like $8 at the cheapest. So I did it when it made sense. But it may not make sense to be building them out of wood now, but if this is how you would like to start gardening, then it's perfect. Gets everything raised up off the ground. It's easier to get into, gives you a consolidated spot to actually plant your plants, and it does well. I mean, look behind me. I've got bunching green onions, garlic chives, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, more broccoli on the other side of me. It does well. So if this is where you'd like to start gardening, then it's an easy one to do. It doesn't take exactly a lot of experience to learn how to build a box. I mean, they're relatively simple. The hardest part is filling it with dirt, and that's easy too. Especially if you backfill, you just put your box where you want it, and then dig down underneath and just kind of fill it from the sides. Fill it with compost. Fill it with grass clippings. Anything that you can find that will help you fill the boxes, all the better. Now let's go to another spot where I have a different style of gardening going on, entirely different. All right, this is a completely different style of gardening than the one that you just saw, and it is a classic style. What I did was I rototilled the earth. I built myself some nice raised areas, and I planted. Victory gardening. That's kind of the theme going on here. It's easy to do. Anyone can do it, even if you don't have a rototiller. It's a little harder to do with a shovel and a hoe, but it can be done, and it's easy. It actually looks nice, especially when everything starts to pop. Over here in the Victory Garden, I've got pumpkins down at the bottom end, and I'm gonna actually let those stretch out this way. And my first 4 rows are a sweet corn variety, and then I've got sunflowers, because who doesn't like sunflowers? They're beautiful to look at. And then after that, I have dent corn, because it makes sense to, especially in this situation that we're in now with just food getting more and more expensive, grow everything you possibly can. And dent corn kind of made sense for me. Dent corn definitely made sense for me. It's easy to grind it on your own. There's very cheap grinders if you want to make cornmeal. It's just an easy thing to do to kind of help with food security. With that being said, this isn't the only way to garden, so let's go to a different spot. All right, I actually showed this in the last video I did, but behind me I have my potatoes, and normally I do those in raised beds, but it flooded even in raised beds last year. So what I decided to do was something completely different. These are grow bags. They are very, very big grow bags, to be sure, but they're still grow bags, and it's just another feather in your cap for gardening. It makes sense for me, especially. We had so much rain last year. I was kind of scared to put potatoes back in raised beds again. With this method, hopefully, if it does rain really hard like we had last year, I will be able to just move them out of the flooded area and call it a day. And if you're worried about them not doing as well, I mean, look at these things. They are huge. Give it another month, they're going to be as tall as I am, which is amazing. But that's just another method of gardening. Let's get to one that's a little bit different, and it takes a lot more time to get set, but once it's set, it's pretty cool. Looks a little different, and that's because it is. This is a style of gardening called food forest. It really kind of just tries to simulate how an actual forest would be. You have your upper canopy regions. In my case, they're apple trees. Behind me further, I also have nectarine trees and pear trees. Now those nectarines and pears are still a little young. It'll probably be next year before I even see a harvest off them. But my apple trees, they're laden. I mean, yeah, they're all over the place. And I'll get a good harvest off them this year. But that's just the upper story. You have way more than just the canopy area. If you go all the way down to the garden floor, I have all sorts of different plants out in the ground. I've got a carpet of strawberries. I've got goji berries, lemon balm, chocolate mint, gooseberries, currants, pawpaw trees, which are still a little small, but they'll get bigger. I've got a row of raspberries. I've got a row of blackberries. There's just so many things that you can put in here, and just kind of mixing in between them so they kind of take advantage of all the spaces that you have. Now, is this an easy thing to do? Not for startup, but once everything's set up, it takes care of itself. Every now and then I'll come in and weed and kind of like weed eat things that I really don't want in the garden, and then try and make space for something different. I've got just a huge variety of things out here, and I'm just waiting for everything to coexist and get a little bit of cohesion going, and give this 1 or 2 more years, and this little space is going to look amazing, and it's going to produce a lot of stuff for me. Let's go somewhere shaded and talk for a second. So I've shown you just a few different varieties of gardening that I'm personally doing myself. Is every one of those varieties for everyone? Surely not. But I like to experiment myself and try new things, different approaches. If something doesn't work, try something different and see how it goes from there. Would I recommend everyone going out and doing all the varieties I'm doing? No. If especially with wood being the price it is now, I wouldn't recommend doing the raised beds either. You can just mound up dirt and or rototill and do like a victory garden style and call it a day, and you'll be square. You'll be set, for the season. I just recommend that everyone start to garden. It's a great hobby, and you know what? It gives you something at the end of the day. And in the world that we live in now, where everything seems a little shaky, it's good to have a little bit of food security. So yeah, get out, have a little fun, plant some seeds. It's only June, so there's still plenty of time. I still have to throw out some lovage and huckleberry plants out into the food forest, and I've never used those ones before, but I'm anxious to see how they go. Yeah, just get out, have fun, and garden. Happy gardening.